Today we're going to talk about the conspiracies that our government has actually covered up, lies they've told us, technology they've had that they're just acting like it's new things, or technology they have that they do not give us access to. Essentially, how the government alters our everyday life and what we've been told in our history books growing up in schools. So Cullen has an interesting topic. This is my father-in-law, Cullen, and he is wanting to talk about first, in 1913, essentially how America was stolen from us, not by war, but by finances.
Well, in 1913, we had President Woodrow Wilson. And basically, we already were big time in debt. We weren't able to pay our debt. We had already defaulted on two separate loans previous to that, and so it was time to pay up. So
who did we owe all the money to? Just so I know.
Britain.
Okay.
Britain, yeah.
Okay.
And so, anyway, he had to sell out, pretty much. And, that was the introduction of the Federal Reserve and Fort Knox and, on and on. It just kind of compiled after that.
Was that when they created income tax as well?
And basically, that's when the United States of America became the United States of America Corporation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So, which goes hand in hand with the District of Columbia, which is a sovereign nation in itself. I mean, it doesn't belong to anything. It's just, whatever it is. So your corporations run out of that. So basically, to get out of all this bullshit, they had to pretty much, okay, we defaulted on our loan. You guys own us now. And so, which rolled into the world banking and having to go through the global bank and everything else instead of, like the old school.
So is the Federal Reserve owned by the federal government?
No, absolutely not. It doesn't have any fucking thing to do with it. It's just a made up fucking name.
So what we base our banking rates on and our interest rates on is owned by a private person, individually?
Basically, those interest rates are given to him by the World Central Bank. And
okay. So we're essentially, we don't have free will on what we can set our interest rates at, essentially.
No.
Now, and that's what I want to bring up next is, I guess, this is like what we all learn in history.
And that follows, with the World Economic Forum that everybody has to go to every year and all that shit. That's when they set all that bullshit.
Yeah. So, and what I wanted to bring up here is the biggest lie that I think we're ever told. And I'm going to lose a lot of people out here. A lot of people are going to get mad at me because, America is supposed to be the greatest country. And we, had a big American Revolution to win our independence from Britain. And I think that's the biggest scam we're ever sold while we're in school, because they said, no taxation without representation. And then as soon as we won that war, literally, you can look this up, the next year we taxed our people twice what the British were taxing us in the first place.
Yeah, that's the whole reason we left.
Yeah.
And then we come back over here and do the same shit.
And I always got upset because in school they would say taxation without representation. There was tons of representation. The British Army was over here protecting us from the other countries. They were sending food and supplies over. They were sending medication over. They were sending pretty much anything the settlers asked for, they were sending over. And then all of a sudden one day we were like, no. And what really happened is I feel like the elites that came to the United States were like, that was kind of nice having all that tax money where we just came from.
Yeah.
So let's convince everybody that we need to go to war, and then let's turn around and tax those same citizens double the amount of what Great Britain ever taxes in the first place.
It's just a pattern. How do you make up your money?
Yeah, 4th of July is not a celebration of independence. That is a celebration of the elite for enslaving their own people, if we want to be completely honest.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, that's the easiest way to make money. Hey, we're which will lead into another topic that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But how do you make up money quick? You go to fucking war, dude.
Yeah, you go to war. Yep. Which the topic he's talking about that we want to refer to is, everybody talks about World War II and the reasons why we got in it and the reason, why we did what we did and everything. America was the last country to really jump in on World War II, and I think we were kind of waiting to blackmail everybody else until that, because if you guys didn't know, the Great Depression happened, before World War II, obviously, and our deal with World War II was we got the gold reserves when we won. All the gold reserves that Germany had, we got almost that whole gold reserve, and that's why we went into the biggest economic boom America had ever seen.
And we got more than that.
Yeah, exactly. And we essentially were able to get ourselves into the situation that happened right after with the baby boomer era and all that. And you see houses being built everywhere. is because we literally kind of extorted everybody, saying like, "Hey, we'll get in this war, we'll end it for you. Give us the money, show us the gold," and that's what's going to happen.
Well, that's what set off the Cold War as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of bitterness there.
Yeah, because Russia didn't get what they thought they deserved.
Yeah, and now we said this topic was going to be very different, but I'm going to go right back into what we talked about last time with the events that the government lies to us about, and the moon landing with the Cold War in Russia.
Oh, horseshit. Have you seen the latest photo of the fucking Artemis shit?
It's to me that's all
they lined up 69 and 2026 of the Earth. Clouds are just exactly the same fucking spot that they were 69. But besides that, go on.
Yeah. So, and instead of politics and war and all that stuff, I want to talk about some conspiracies that we know happen. I don't want this to be conspiracies that are just we think this happened. I'm talking about the government has came out and confirmed it, but they waited really long time. So pretty much the people that would be affected or the people that were involved in causing these things had kind of either got out of office or had died. And the first one's MK Ultra. Something they denied for 40 years before confirming, yeah, we did that. People were called crazy for decades for saying MK Ultra is a real thing, and then in the 90s we're like, yeah, we did that. Sorry. What are you going to do?
Oh, absolutely. They did that shit. They started. Let's see.
I was going to say, can you explain what MK Ultra is for the people who don't know?
Well, basically, MK Ultra was a new way for them to. There's a lot into it, but it was basically mind control.
Mm-hmm. And propaganda.
And propaganda and everything else. And so, there's a lot of other facets that go into it. But they were basically trying to mind control and make more or less a Manchurian candidate. And what I mean by a Manchurian candidate is more or less like a sleeper cell that could be activated, by seeing a picture, a certain keyword, this, that, whatever else. And they could go out and just seem like a normal human being, and that's how they were programmed. I mean, they just do their day-to-day life, and then all of a sudden you come up to them and say, Apple. Okay, all right.
The apple's in the bag.
It switches, and they're like, okay, my mission is to go not pew-pew this guy or whatever else.
What are you saying might sound crazy and far-fetched, but the government literally came out and confirmed that they did do this. And Bill Clinton, actually, I think, was the one who released it to the press when he was in office, saying, like, hey, we got to apologize for the people that were affected. And essentially, the only area they confirmed doing it, I think, was in Ohio, is where they confirmed said they were doing it. And they claimed that they really wanted to see if they could sway public opinion on politics, religion, personal beliefs, morals, things like that, by essentially showing quick photographs in television broadcasts, like they're so fast you didn't even realize you even saw it. In commercial breaks and television podcasts, they would say that they would say key phrases in the middle of these podcasts that were at a high frequency where you didn't realize you even heard it. They were doing weird stuff at the radios.
Oh, well,
a lot of weird stuff.
It's still confirmed. A lot of the guys that were, kind of part of that, they said the main influence still, and that's the number one influence out of everything is television.
It's television, yeah. That's still, And now today it's gone to like your online television, your TikTok, your YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, that's their key manipulation.
They said every future election will be won by social media, is what they were all saying.
I believe it, 100%. Yeah. And, I mean, you can argue about it. Of course, this is all theory, with Charles Manson being part of the MK Ultra and, being mind controlled to also control the other masses and this. And,
if you guys haven't heard that theory, by the way, what are you just saying about Charles Manson? They think might have been an experiment of MK Ultra to see if it could work and to see if you could get somebody to commit the most heinous acts imaginable. And he was like their little godchild experiment that they set loose in the public.
If you sit down and listen to a lot of his interviews and stuff, he's very smart. He's nuttier than a shithouse rat.
Yeah, but he's very smart.
But he is very intelligent, and if you can get through all the garble that he kind of goes off on a tangent about, I mean, what he talks about is real shit.
Yeah.
So, MK Ultra, which also later led, they kind of shut down the MK Ultra because it was, they dealt with LSD, amphetamines, barbiturates, all kinds of stuff, and shock therapy as well, to kind of break the mind and then remold the mind.
Yep.
into what they wanted to do. So the book, The Institute, is basically the same thing. They were all, I believe it was in Vermont, like you said earlier, that it was, the book was based on in a hidden little facility and highly guarded, and they were using the kids. And
I do want to interject something, because when you said portals and all that stuff, we might lose some people there. That area, the reason why Montauk Project was where it was at, is it was named that after the indigenous people who lived there before, and they called that area where that base is literally at. That base still sits there. The native people before that called it. Yeah, they called it the Tower of God, because they believed there was already a natural gateway to speak to whatever their higher power was in that area, and there's the conspiracy of the reason why that base was built there was because there really was some kind of natural already energy of some kind that was there.
That goes back to, your ley lines and everything,
pyramids
and all that good stuff. But anyway, in the book, they end up rounding up a whole bunch of kids, and then they put them together in a group, and each one feeds off each other and amplifies,
makes it more powerful,
whatever they do. And basically what they were doing in the book anyway is they were remote assassins.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen, yeah,
they were remote assassins, and making, basically to where you couldn't track it, like a bullet or whatever. It was just be some kind of sort of little accident that happened, and then hey, that dude's dead, got him off the table, all right, let's go.
Now the next little conspiracy thing I want to talk about and once again, I'm going to make some people mad. I think my goal today in this podcast is to get some people upset, and it's not really that, but that's what it's going to feel like. So it is common knowledge now that we know when Pearl Harbor happened, our government had a heads up that it was going to happen. They had multiple warnings. They knew, because we essentially blockaded Japan from getting any oil and getting any transport in and out. So our government was prodding the attack to have an excuse to go to this war, right? Mm-hmm. We know that now. This is not a conspiracy. It's not a myth. It's all the information's out there. Okay. I think when 9/11 happened, and once again, I'm going to get some people pissed off. I'm not trying to deny that 9/11 did happen. I'm just saying I don't think it happened the way they told us.
No.
I think that the government has technology way before we do. And I really do think this, and I kind of hinted at it in our last big long form video. What we see is of the recorded footage of the plane hitting the Twin Towers, I truly believe is AI. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. Call me crazy. I think they blew the towers up. The way the towers fell, the way the explosions happened, the heat that happened to make those towers melt, they say essentially cannot, like physics alone say that the planes hitting them could not have caused that type of damage.
Well, you can't forget about the Pentagon as well.
Exactly. And so I think that there was a ton of AI used in that, because when you talk to the rescuers and the first responders that were at the Twin Towers, no one talks about picking up plane parts. No one talks about picking up plane debris. And there should have been shit everywhere.
Absolutely. And that goes on to say, like you're saying, technology is way ahead of what we're seeing. So there's another project called Project Bluebeam that came into effect for that. Well, we didn't really know about it in 2001.
Yeah.
Okay, now it's out.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about it. Shit, you can go to Oman, Dubai, and watch Project Bluebeam holograms that they put on for show, and it looks like real shit in the sky.
If you don't know what Project Bluebeam is, real quick, a quick interjection is it's essentially a conspiracy. It's not even a conspiracy. Project Bluebeam is a real military document. But it's essentially where they're going to use hyper-realistic holograms, AI, deep fake videos, and all this stuff to essentially create any kind of war, dysfunction, unity, essentially whatever the goal is at the time. They can fake all they need to fake with videos, holograms, audios, and all this stuff to make us believe whatever we want to. Because if you see it on CNN and Fox, you take it for truth. Everybody always does that. You see stuff on the internet and you go, oh, that's fake. But you see something on Fox News and you go, oh, that's real. Why? It's all media. It's all the same shit. Anything you can put, they show how easy it is to use this technology, and they could make us think or do. And I think it's happening right now to us every single day. I really do. I truly think that every single day we're being Project Bluebeamed into our beliefs and religions and political thoughts and everything else.
So what was the reason behind all that? Let's talk about that.
I think the reason is always dysfunction, or to generate an opinion of some kind. I'm talking about Project Bluebeam as a whole.
Oh,
as a whole.
I was talking about the towers.
The towers, I think that was definitely to create that war.
Absolutely, but why?
I don't know. I won't pretend to know about all the different oil and gold and
How about
money.
$2.3 trillion unaccounted for?
There you go. Oh yes. Oh my gosh. Didn't the Twin Towers attack happen like right before the National Reserve audit?
Well, that's what. God damn it! What was his name? Shit. He talked about it the night before.
Yes. Oh my God.
Okay, and he talked about. He said 2.3 is unaccounted for. We don't know where the fuck it went. Now this wasn't 2.3 that just automatically disappeared like that. It was over a good stretch of time.
Yep.
You know, because record keepings and everything else was so for shit because they didn't have the technology, or they say they didn't have
Yeah.
the accounting ability to do it.
We had the technology to go to the moon, but not to do our proper accounting.
Right, exactly. So, because of that, asshole Cheney, that was VP at that time, he said, okay, we'll get rid of this real goddamn quick. So basically, there were about 2 places where they saved all the accounting records and everything else. One being the Pentagon. So, of course, my opinion, they sent a missile, blew their asses up over at the Pentagon, wiped out all the records. Same thing with the Twin Towers. Blew all that shit up. Now, backtrack a little bit, and when the Timothy McVeigh that blew up the Oklahoma.
The Oklahoma City bombing. Yep. And I've talked about that before. We can talk about it again.
Okay, accounting records
Yep.
out of that place.
Yep. Got blown
They're
up.
covering up money. Okay, well, how in the hell we make this money back up? Oh shit, let's just go to war.
Yep.
We'll go to war. We'll blame it on somebody else, and we'll make this money up real quick.
Yep.
Now, they made up all the money, you know, with private contractors. One of them, you know, just so happened to be Halliburton was in that. Well, who was CEO of Halliburton at that time?
I don't know.
Dick Cheney.
I have heard that before,
Yeah.
and I forgot.
Yeah,
And
Lockheed Martin, Boeing, all of them banking all
Yeah.
of that shit. They made their money back.
yeah, it's real creepy whenever you get into looking at you know.
Follow the money, it'll tell you.
Yeah, it's real creepy. And they're even trying to pass laws now where you can't hold different positions if you're in government. And I think that should be the case, because I think that would eliminate a lot of the corruption if you could not trade stocks while you're in office, if you could not hold CEO positions of major businesses while you're in office, because there's so much. Like you talk about corruption, and then you see, like what you just said, there's always a trail, there's always direct connections, and it's so creepy. You know, he talked about the Oklahoma City bombing a minute ago, and we live in Oklahoma, by the way. And one hard thing that no one ever wants to talk about, because this happened almost 30 years ago now. One hard thing no one wants to talk about. Do you know who died in the Oklahoma City bombing? One of the people that were there.
I'm not sure,
Okay.
but I know it was.
I'm about to go down a dark hole with you
and
guys.
A bunch of kids.
Yes.
you know.
So a dark hole to go down on this route. And go ahead and get upset with me if you want to. I don't care what presidents you do and don't like. It does not make a difference. But do you know when Bill Clinton was in office, his whole personal security detail died 3 times?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you know where his personal security detail was on the
I
Oklahoma
heard
City
about
bombing?
that. I
They
heard
were
about
there.
that. Yeah.
Why the hell were they there? And they just happened to die. Okay. Bill Clinton's personal security detail died once in a plane crash, once in a helicopter crash, and literally once with the Oklahoma City bombing.
Yeah.
This is not a conspiracy. You can go look up their death records. What the hell? Like, if they offered me a job to be his security detail, you couldn't have paid me enough, because the death rate of his security detail was 75%. 75% of all the people on his personal security detail while he was president fucking died.
How did he get so rich?
Oh, you talking about the lawyer office? If you guys don't know about that,
No. I'm talking about Clinton. How did he get so rich with the Clinton Foundation?
Oh God,
Have we talked?
Oh, we have not talked about the Clinton Foundation. I think that's its own video.
Yeah.
I think that's its own thing, and then we need to go underground after. Afterwards.
Hillary will come after our ass in a heartbeat.
Oh my gosh! If you guys want to go down a deep rabbit hole, they will scrub these videos from the internet, but it's called the Clinton Murder Trail. And pretty much anybody that has ever done major business with the Clintons has died in a weird way. And once again, I don't care if you like the Clintons or not. I really don't give a shit. But follow the death receipts and the obituaries. Even before they were into politics, whenever they owned their big lawyer firm, they owned the lawyer firm 50-50 with their partner. I'd have to look up what his name was. And he, like, they were trying to buy him out, and he said no, and then died in a car wreck the next week. Like, what the fuck? And then, his half was worth millions. He, it's just, it's nuts how that works out. And then it pretty much continued to be that same series of misunfortunate events.
Well, one of the big thing is, Kennedy on that, and the reason they took his ass out, we were talking about the United States Corporation. Okay, well, one of the main points that Kennedy was taken out is because he wanted to go back to the gold standard.
Oh, that's the same reason why they killed General Patton as well. Mm-hmm. Yep. So go ahead and talk about that, and don't let me forget about General Patton.
And so, among other things, but there were a lot of other different reasons for Kennedy, but he was trying to bring back, America a lot, kind of like a little bit like Trump is, but Trump's doing a little different. Yeah, he's trying to bring back the U.S. dollar and fuck up the euro more or less, and being,
Who do we owe those loans to again?
Oh,
the UK.
The UK.
So the hole that we're about to go down, or if Cole wants to do this, every major leader we've ever had that has tried to go back to gold standard and off of the euros and everything else has died unexpectedly and suddenly. He just talked about JFK. General Patton, the literal general of the army. Do you know how he died, right?
I can't remember.
So General Patton was ran over by a Jeep on his own base.
Yeah.
Literally not, he had been in so many war zones, so much conflict.
Right.
He gets run over on his own base while he's crossing the road, and he gets hit. Where was he crossing the road to go to? Do you know? I know.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay, so he was on the way to go to a meeting about going back to the gold standard, and he gets run over on the way there.
Nice.
That's not a coincidence.
No, it's not. Absolutely not.
That's not a coincidence.
He
He was on the way to do like a multi-billion-dollar gold deal. Gets run over on the way there.
Yeah, and it was the same deal with Kennedy. I mean, you can say Oswald was the only one that did it. No, horse shit. That was all government playing this.
Well, look at Lee Harvey Oswald's age, though. He was also the same age of when the MK Ultra programs were going on. Mm-hmm. So we talked about the activations and sleeper cells and all this stuff.
Exactly. And he had a fucked up career, being defected to Russia and come back and all kinds of, he was in all kinds of different shit.
But now that's easy to look back and say that because that's what they want us to believe. Was he a CIA agent and he was actually a spy of some kind? You don't know how to get around a security detail like that without insight or training.
Oh yeah, he had his handler and he had all kinds of different shit, But it wasn't only him. There was a whole array of shit that went down with him. So, okay, let's switch gears a minute. Let's go over different little programs that have come out, like you mentioned before, that we know for a fact. One being Project Paperclip.
Okay, I've heard this one. Refresh me.
Okay, after the war, World War II, we pretty much dismantled Germany and all that, and one of the main huge players in that was Russia, of course, and Poland and all the other unified alliance. But after we got done, we're like, okay, we've got these brilliant fucking minds here, and they were working on some wacky shit. They had technology out the wazoo. So we didn't want that to go to waste. So we more or less split up the scientists. The scientists from the Nazis.
Oh yeah.
A bunch of them came over here. Some of them got.
A lot of them went down to like Brazil and other parts of South America. And, that was like the ones that fled, though. That's from what I
right, and Russia got a few.
Yep.
Which later turned into what we call NASA.
Yeah.
Now. But that, like I say, that was one big deal, with NATO and Russia that set us off into the Cold War. They were pissed because they didn't get the spoils of war.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Which, by the way, Russia had the most casualties of, I think, any two countries combined, from what I understand.
And that's why they'll never join NATO and have anything to do with NATO is because they got fucked.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did. They had more. They had the least resources, the most casualties. What was it? Was Stalingrad? I think more people died in Stalingrad than all of the Allied losses combined.
My wife could tell you that stuff. She's pretty sharp on that. I can't remember all the.
So, I want to jump back to something that happened here on the inland in the United States. Now, this is actually something you can go look up on your own, and it's the World War II attacks that we had on the United States mainland. That they don't like to talk about this, especially back then. Now it's pretty common knowledge. You can look this stuff up on your own. But they didn't want people to freak out in the United States, thinking that we were getting attacked, and we weren't really getting massively attacked. But more than 100 people died on not talking about Pearl Harbor. I'm talking mainland United States. More than 100 people died from foreign attacks during World War II, and one of the attacks was these balloon bombs. Have you heard about this? One of them got found in 2016 still that it was not detonated. So Japan released a bunch of like weather balloon looking bombs essentially that were made to fall anywhere along the mid and Midwest United States and the western coast of the United States. And more than 50 people died directly from those. There was a whole family of 4 that was on a picnic got killed by one of these. And most of it would be because you would see them come down and you'd go investigate them.
Right.
And when you would touch them, they would explode.
Right.
But they were supposed to explode when they hit the ground, but they didn't.
Right.
And the bombs were very small. But they were essentially, this was a precursor test of if they could release poison onto mainland U.S.
Right. Yeah,
and the test is they wanted to see how many people died from the bombs and where they died. Because they wanted to see where the airstream was taking these bombs to. But the United States refused to talk about it on the air because they knew that was the goal. They knew the goal was the enemy was listening to see, hey, where did some of these people die? So they did massive cover-ups and paid tons of families off to not talk about how their loved ones died.
They didn't want to create a panic.
Because they didn't want to create a panic, but they also didn't want to give Japan the news they needed to release this poison. So Japan actually thought it just didn't work. So they never went to the next stage of releasing the poison.
Huh.
And I thought that was a really cool story of World War II.
Never heard that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, more than 100 people died of random little attacks. There was an attack in Alaska. I don't know if you've heard this.
Yeah.
Japan released a mini sub, and it was supposed to go into like Northern California. It got way off course and landed in Alaska. The Japanese guys got out and just started attacking some random Alaskans in a town, and they killed a few people before they got shot. Once again, the government said, "Don't talk about this. We're not going to release this for 40 years or whatever." Because we don't want them to know what's working and what's not working. And there's a lot of random attacks like that don't really get talked about. And the other thing that we tried to do shortly after World War II was we wanted to see about weather manipulation. And I know this is one of your favorite subjects.
Oh, yeah.
So before we even go down my story in California of how we accidentally killed a bunch of people of our own, we killed American citizens, what do you want to say about the whole weather phenomenon and if it's real, if it's not real?
Well, that's kind of a 2-part question. One, of course, cloud seeding and everything else has been going on forever. We all know about it. They do it overseas all the time. Mm-hmm. And like you were talking about earlier about the seeding that they did over Southern California, they killed all the people and now it's pretty much common knowledge anytime you go out and you see all the fucking airstreams and chemtrails that they leave in the sky, the weather's fixing to get shitty for the next couple days.
And we've talked about how here lately, every time there's about to be a storm or a weather change, pretty much everybody in our family feels sick. And we live in the most central part of the United States, so we get winds from all directions.
Just like you yesterday, my son, my wife, we had a good storm last night, produced quite a bit of rain, thunderstorm and everything. My dogs were going fucking crazy.
Which we needed because we've been having wildfires like crazy.
Right. And so, but I can understand that, providing the rain that we do need, but, the silver nitrate and whatever else they spray up into the fucking clouds and everything else, I mean, it makes a lot of people sick. You had a screaming headache yesterday. My son had a screaming headache. Couldn't.
We were outside all day.
And, the same with my wife.
Yep.
And, it's fucking people up.
Now, you made an interesting point. you can understand it if they do it for good. And this isn't even a conspiracy if weather manipulation is real or not, because China's very open. You can go to their China's very open about it. They're like, yeah, we do it all the time. If there's an area that's drought, hey, we make it rain. And they've been very open about doing it for the last, I think, 16 to 20 years or so. That's when they became open about it. But if you look at when we figured out how to do it, or when we first started doing it, I think it was and I could get these mixed up. It was either in the Vietnam War or Korean War. And it was the war that all the enemy soldiers kept hiding in the holes and then in the tunnels, and we were going to try to make it rain to flood them quite literally out of these holes and tunnels, and we were going to make it at monsoon season when it wasn't monsoon season, and supposedly it worked phenomenally. But before we figured out that it worked, we used it in our own country in Southern California, and this part of the story I'm about to tell you is not a conspiracy whatsoever. It's a public knowledge event. There was a class action lawsuit about it that people were able to get a part of if they had family members that died or got cancer during this time period, this specific kind of cancer. But the government didn't admit to it for 40 years.
Yeah.
So 40 years later, they're like, hey, if you were born in this time period and you've got cancer or you've got these health issues, you can actually sue the Department of Defense. So what they did is they went off the coast of Southern California, and it was some kind of orange dye. Now, what they thought was going to happen to know if it worked or not is they were going to cloud bust this cloud to make it rain. And then they thought it was going to cause side effects on people, but they thought it was going to cause harmless side effects on people. They thought that it would make people pee orange. That's a fucking weird thing to look for, but apparently they had done some kind of test and knew that was a side effect. And they thought it was going to make people pee orange, and then they were going to look at all the hospitals for people who came in with complaints of, oh my God, I'm pissing orange. Okay, and it worked. Hundreds of people came in and said, I'm pissing orange. What didn't work and what they didn't foresee is about 40 people died from kidney failure, and there was some other side effect that people were dying from. People were bleeding out of their eyeballs. They think that it caused like some long-term kidney damage and cancers, kind of like Agent Orange did. And this wasn't orange dye, so I wonder if it is a derivative of Agent Orange somehow. But anyhow, it was a big thing. But the government was like, we are not going to own up to this shit for 40 years, which makes me always wonder when they come out, and what are they going to say in 40 years from now about COVID, the vaccines, all that stuff?
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Here's a couple dollars. A couple dollars of our own fucking money they'll give back to us.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, I'm so curious of what in 40 years they'll admit to now when everybody that was involved is dead and gone, that was involved in decision makings, or they're at the very least they're retired.
And so on the other aspect of weather manipulation, you always got the conspiracy of HAARP, HAARP. And there's several HAARP stations all over the world, but the main one everybody knows about is in Alaska.
Alaska, yeah.
So this HAARP kind of evolved from another project called Project Fishbowl, if you had never heard about that.
I have.
Okay, so I think it was Johnston Island, out towards Hawaii. What they were trying to do is to see how they can manipulate radio signals and manipulate the ionosphere. And they say it, but they don't say it. They were seeing if there was actually a fucking firmament too.
Gotcha, I've heard that.
And
is it blue iodine or silver iodine? Is that what they're, not blue iodine, silver iodine is what they supposedly spray up in the clouds?
Something like silver nitrate or silver iodine.
Okay.
I know it's silver something.
Gotcha.
But anyway, they set off 5 nukes at different intervals. The one that went the highest was 250.
I did see this. Okay, yes.
And so, and then because of the thermal and explosion and everything else also caused an aurora borealis.
It did, yeah.
And showed all that shit.
Yeah, so we know we can artificially create aurora borealises by sending a nuke in the air, which is a weird thing to know that we can do. That's like...
They were testing ICBMs and seeing, what it would do this way or that way and how it would fuck up radio transmissions and all kinds of different aspects of it. Well, eventually they're like, okay, we can't really be sending fucking nukes up there every time we want to do this shit. So they learned from their data that they can manipulate the ionosphere. And so through radio waves and through the setup antennas and everything that they got there at HARP, they can more or less kind of like a laser beam or more of a radio beam can bounce that signal off the ionosphere, disrupt the ionosphere, and then also they can arc it down to where it's more or less kind of like a, like shooting pool. You hit and you bank, and then your fucking laser bounces off the firmament, comes back down to the earth and causes all kinds of havoc. So,
oh my God, are you talking about what happened in Hawaii with those wildfires?
Okay, earthquakes, tsunamis.
I've got to say something real quick, or I'm going to lose this. Okay, you guys remember, was it a year ago or 2 years ago when that massive wildfire took out most of
I think it was damn near 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, if you look at the footage of that, look at the aerial footage. Nothing blue burnt. What the fuck was that about? Like, if go look at the footage, don't take my word for it. Go look at the footage of the damage and Google about how nothing blue caught on fire. It's fucking nuts. And so many people that were in the military say that we have color-coded laser programs, that we're experimenting with satellite lasers. We're experimenting with kind of like what you're saying about the HARP bouncing the lasers off and the beams off.
Yeah.
But if you go look at that Hawaii wildfire, they don't think it was like the ground caught fire and it was a wildfire. They think that like it was a airborne attack of some kind.
Right.
Because nothing that was blue caught on fire. It doesn't make any sense. Like houses with blue roofs, spared. Cars that were blue, spared. There was a fucking trash can that you should have melted. It was plastic, but it was blue. Nothing happened to it. It was one of the creepiest things you can go look at.
That's weird.
It's super weird.
And so to back that up, in my industry, as far as the oil field is concerned, they send actual radio waves and frequencies when they're plotting oil wells. And so through that technology itself, they can specifically send your frequency down into the earth. Okay. Well, just almost kind of like sonar, when it hits a certain formation, it bounces back up, but it's at a certain frequency that it bounces back up. Just kind of like if you hit a key on a piano, okay, a low key, it bounces back up. Okay, that's gas. We know that's gas. All right, you keep shooting that frequency down into the earth, it bounces back up, changes the key of the frequency. Okay, that's oil. Same fucking deal. But they're only shooting about 30 amps down into the ground to do this now,
which is nothing.
Which is nothing. But when you talk about fucking HARP, you're looking in the fucking millions of fucking amperage. Okay. Now, just imagine that same piano string times 1,000,000 and vibrating. That frequency is.
You think it could cause earthquakes?
Shaking so fucking bad.
Yeah.
That it is causing those earthquakes. So you started off the fucking coast, you bounce it down in the ocean floor, shaking the fuck out of the ocean floor. There's your tsunami.
Yep.
There's your earthquakes. There's all this and everything like that. Now, it was originally part of the Air Force, which now is privately owned, but the fucking government still got that shit.
Oh yeah,
and they've got all kinds of other facilities around the world that do the same shit.
Yeah. And we're the only country that really kind of tries to deny that we do all that stuff. Like China's very, like I said a minute ago, China's like, yeah, we do it. We manipulate the weather, and of course they don't claim to do it maliciously, but obviously I feel like you could because. And I'm going to go ahead and I always do this, and Cullen hates it. I make anime references. If you guys watch the show One Piece talks about all the conspiracies we'll ever talk about in each arc. So in One Piece, the Alabasta arc, the reason why that country is at war is there's two desert countries, okay? Well, there's a desert country, and they're in a civil war. Half of the country is getting a lot of rain. The other half of the country is getting no rain. And they find out that the country's getting all the rain. What they're doing is they're busting the clouds, like the clouds that go over the desert. Before the clouds can even get to this part of the desert, they're busting them so they get all the rain. And so essentially they're starving out the other side of the country by no crops, no rain, no water. And now those people have to come begging to these people for water, food, shelter, all this stuff. And they're getting rich off of it. So that's why the Civil War happens. And you can't help but wonder, like if we could control rain, you could drought out an area you didn't want. And we talk about This is weird. I'm gonna tie this back in. This makes sense. It's not a random tangent. The last 10 years, we have a big farm. We feel like there has been a war on farmers the last 10 years. In the last 10 years, we've seen more droughts, more wildfires than the past 50 years combined. And they always say, we wonder if they're doing that so to put all the small farms out of business, put that final nail in the coffin. That way you have no choice but to buy the lab-grown meat that they're coming out with now. You have no choice but to buy because farmers right now, it is costing more money to raise a cow than what you'll get from selling the cow. Well, so farmers have no point to farm anymore.
Look at, look how much land Bill Gates has bought up for farmland.
Going back to the Hawaii, Oprah, The Rock, Bill Gates, all that stuff that burnt in Hawaii, go look up who bought it. Yeah. It's not a conspiracy. It's not a myth. You can just look who bought the shit.
Yeah.
It was them.
I say, you get into the conspiracy shit, you follow the fucking money. That'll tell you what's going on.
Yep.
Follow the fucking money.
Yep. And you're seeing all these big farmlands being used for AI farms and solar farms and all this other stuff. It's just, it's wild.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, quick story about that one. Bill Gates and several other multi-millionaires buy a lot of farmland, Oregon, Colorado, Wyoming, stuff like that. And they have a big need of hay for all your cattle and all that stuff. So one of my buddies, he was on the water transfer side as far as the oil field is concerned when we deal with frac jobs and stuff like that. So a new technique that they were trying that really never took off the ground. You've got all your wildfires up in Wyoming, Oregon, Northern California, all that area up there that you always see big, huge wildfires. And so these guys were investing in a new technique to try to help mitigate the damage and save their farms, which is running basically lay flat line for your oil field, transfer lines that we can, during a frac job, we can pump 100 barrels a minute. Now, to anybody else, thinking about that, that's 42,000 gallons a minute.
Gosh.
So we can pump that, and we do it every day, all fucking day. And so the only problem is finding the water source to pump it from, and that's what they were trying to mitigate to help lay these lay flat lines with sprinklers and everything else going all, stationed through all that to more or less make a blockade from this fire from spreading. And that was a big deal with, because normally you go up there and they do big, huge airdrops. They send actual, prison trustees out there to dig up the land and
make dirt berms.
Dirt berms and all that kind of stuff like that. Well, I mean, that's for one drop. I think he told me it's something like $25,000 to $50,000 fucking dollars for a drop. All right. Well, in the oil field, water is really cheap. I'm thinking maybe, back in the old days, it was about a quarter of a barrel. Okay, well, they only may drop fucking 1,000 gallons. Well, 1,000 gallons to us is about 24 barrels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's just fucking drop in the bucket. We're dealing with 42,000 gallons a minute. Think of what that could do to save all the farmland and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'd be a no-brainer. I mean,
but why? But they won't open that option up because it's a possibility that they want those farmland areas to fail.
That could be it too, and then also you're putting a lot of other people, as far as airdrops and all that, out of business, and people make a lot of money on fighting fires on that. We can mitigate the problem, no problem. Which I don't understand why they don't do that more in, the Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle. Because
the oil field's already there.
Dude, I've fracked 1,000 wells out there, and we got the water. It may take a while to build up as a pit or whatever else, but we could definitely do that and mitigate that whole issue. But people don't want to do it. But that's neither here nor there. what's another good one? Oh, you were talking about the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh yeah, okay? Is this the one where they were trying to like with the people on the boat? Is that okay? So before I even said too much, I was wanting to make sure that was what I'm talking about here. So, from what I understand in that, they were either trying to figure out wormholes or time. Is it time travel?
No, originally their plan was to more or less cloak a ship.
Invisibility. That's what it was. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
They were trying to cloak a ship from existing radar.
Yep.
And so they got into playing with the electromagnetism and ended up.
It melted the people to the ship. It bonded them to the metal.
Yeah, and they ended up.
Literally, like I'm talking, like they melted to it. Like it's.
Yeah, it fucked everything up, and they ended up opening up a portal because they left, I believe, Philadelphia, and they ended up all the way down in fucking Virginia.
Yeah, it was really, and they couldn't figure it out. They lost radio with them for a long time. It was.
And the people that came back, the ones that did survive, that didn't burn, or that were, they were merged with the metal of the ship.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we're talking about, guys, is like they were trying to play with the frequencies, like he was talking about, and I don't know if you all know this or not, but theoretically, scientifically, if you go to slap your kitchen table, there's like a 1 in so many trillion chance that your hand could go through the table without making contact. It's never going to happen. But we're all made out of electrons, and we're not as solid as we appear on a microscopic level. And essentially, what happened is when they were trying to make this cloaking thing work, the people in the boat's electrons and the boat's electrons vibrated so heavily that they actually vibrated into each other. And literally, like some of these people reported, their foot was through the metal, like their leg was through it, like you could not separate the two. They became one object essentially.
They were talking about when they did come back, some of them were still vibrating so bad they were phasing in and out of existence, more or less. They were becoming whole and then phasing out into nothing.
And what we're talking about is obviously not public record. The Philadelphia experiment publicly was a failed experiment, but they don't really say why. They don't talk about what we're talking about. But there's been a lot of interviews with people surrounding the project that are saying what we're saying right now of what really happened and what went down with the project.
Because of that was previous to the Montauk project. And then they took the data from the Montauk or the Philadelphia experiment and learned about frequency and radio waves and all kinds of shit, how they could fucking amplify this, that, and
almost got you again.
And then so they could amplify the ESP from young kids.
Yeah. Now I guess there's one more I want to talk about today, and then we'll drop this video and we'll move on to a topic again later. So what do you think about all this deep fake technology in the news today? Like I firmly believe that you can't believe anything that's on TV, period, anymore. I think, and I won't say that not all of it's true. I'm just saying, how do you decipher what is true and what's not? Because we're seeing all these deep fake masks where they'll put on these masks and it looks like the same person. Like, have you guys seen the Jim Carrey thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So everybody was calling me crazy because for 2 days I was like, that's not Jim Carrey. That's not Jim Carrey. And then 2 days later it came out that it wasn't Jim Carrey. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
So 2 days later it was a makeup artist that was seeing how good his makeup was.
Yeah.
People were calling me crazy on the internet. They were like, you psycho, that's Jim Carrey, you're a conspiracy theorist. And then 2 days later they confirmed that it was not Jim Carrey. Blowing my fucking mind on how much hate I got on that video. And turns out I was right. You want to ask me how many people apologized?
Probably not.
0.
Yeah. But on that aspect itself, I mean, okay, you got AI that you can make anything.
Yeah, and if you have those deep fake masks and outfits, and then you ask AI to clean up any mistakes you couldn't make, you know what I'm saying? Like, the deep fake mask is taking care of 95% of the appearance, and then the AI filter covers it up where now you can't tell the difference. Like, you can't, there's no separation.
It goes hand in hand with, fucking Joe Biden, his ears and, how he looks so fucking different through all his presidency. And
I can already feel the heat coming from the comments, but
that motherfucker.
It's not him.
It ain't him.
It's not him. It's not him. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if you like him or not. I'm not saying my personal opinion either. It's not him.
But you also get into some other shit, cloning and.
Oh my God! Yes, please. Let's go down that rabbit hole because what the fuck? In the 90s, when I was a kid, I had the Guinness World Book of Records book. I still have it at home. And it talks about how Dolly the sheep was the first successful cloned animal to live into adulthood. And then we never fucking talked about cloning ever again. Fuck that. We definitely figured out how that technology worked and then was like, oh shit, let's not talk about this. And I feel like they definitely use it to this day.
Oh, absolutely. 100% they do. Like I say, I mean, their technology is so fucking far more advanced than what we are.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, from where they get the sources of this technology, that's a different rabbit fucking hole to get into. But cloning is absolutely 100% viable.
Oh, yeah.
But the weird thing about it is, okay, yeah, you can clone, you know, I can make Matt 2.0. But say Matt 1.0 is terminally ill.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make Matt.
You can organ farm.
Yeah. We're going to make Matt 2.0. Okay, how do we transfer your consciousness from that one to the other one?
So, okay, as much as people think Kanye West is crazy, Kanye West talks about this. Have you heard that? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the reason why they deemed him crazy, is I think he might be crazy because of the shit he saw, but then I think he perpetuated how crazy he was because I think he was talking about some real shit. So how do you make it not seem like it's real? You make him seem crazy. Because Kanye West talks about any rapper that's up and coming or any music artist up and coming, that there's a point where they get asked, hey, you got to go down this road, and if you choose not to play along and go down this road, we're going to make another version of you that will go down this road, and you are going to disappear.
Ice Cube did the same thing.
Yep.
Ice Cube and a whole bunch of them. I mean, you know, and a lot of your actors, you know, going on down this road here, they talk about the duality.
Yeah, and that's the Illuminati road, a lot of people say.
You know, of you can either go down this road or you go down this road. And the ones that decide not to go down the bad road, I should say, or the fucking red pill, they pretty much get deemed, you know.
Yeah, they get thrown to the side. They're your one-hit wonders.
You look at fucking Chappelle. You look at Kanye. I mean,
Chappelle actually fled for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
He literally fled the country for a while because he said that they were trying to take him over. Essentially,
exactly. And who else? I mean, Cat Williams. He'll speak about it some.
Yep.
You know, I mean, a bunch of them out there that you know really don't give a fuck.
Yep.
You know, that'll flat out call it out and says, nah, there's two fucking sides to the story here, son.
Yeah. Actually, you know, that would be a really good, for our next video, I would love to do like the Illuminati, the, you know, your different occults within celebrity worlds. I would love to do that because that's some wild stuff. You know, your 27 clubs, you know, your all that wild
Club,
stuff.
what's Bohemian Grove?
Yeah, Bohemian, yeah, all that stuff. I would love to go down that, like whole celebrity rich people occult rituals and, you know, because like you know about the checkerboard, right? Everywhere. If you look at pretty much any new popular artist, they will either wear checkerboard clothes or their albums will have checkerboards on.
Oh,
them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's
their new thing now.
That's their new thing. That's a big Illuminati symbol.
Okay.
I challenge you guys to find any new up and coming big mainstream artist that doesn't.
In hand.
Yeah, that doesn't do that doesn't do the eye or have the checkerboards because it's all of them. It's all of them. Anyhow, guys, that wraps it up. If you liked it, you're already here on Matt from Nomads. So thank you for sticking around. Definitely follow it, and we try to add stuff every other day, but we really try to add stuff every day if we can. So thank you so much.